Hello, Species Value Nature System. Today, either on CNN or on WTNH, which both of them have news articles that were reliant upon the identity theft of me to validate themselves. Because there are things that recorded that show exculpatory evidences criminally hid and that show inculpatory evidences made up consciously. And it shows the recorded are the motivations for this and are the roles and natures with this. Since founding, this organized crime method here since before the modern nations, there was forced grouped nations sick, positive only in relationship to counters that everyone needed by each modern nation and needed value blamed on other things other than themselves. The real causes of each person not having a quality of correlation nature allowed simultaneously inherent active and progressive means. One way redeems. So the news is, it had to have everyone originally and still victim predators. So then what that has to, in other words, they have prejudice as a tool to maintain everybody blaming other things, others themselves, for what is criminal insidiousness nature and or criminal insidiousness natures, like wrongdoers, like wrongdoing, for example, criminal insidiousness nature. Pseudo-positive. Now that has sensibilities with pseudo-positive about what is positive to its sensibilities. Its fact-treatment natures as trained by campuses, as trained by natures of professions that are reliant upon what can't defend their native treatments like that left because we needed to value jobs in and as value nature system tactically ulterior from the one that causes positive value nature progressions, acts and natures that are also positive always, not exploiting exception nature. It's been having that value, something defended, in other words. That was a whole bunch of nations that were forced shared police to hide that. So what do they do when they hide that? But they blame prejudice. They keep state scenarios in collusion against whoever becomes chief. No chief is simultaneously president value, simultaneously POTUS value. There's a trinity inherent to all things, boxing. This is why there is and its complete value is a connection to each part of this trinity, which are three semi-natures. And that is as a complete nature, which is also a semi-nature before and beyond, that won't mix two distinct ways, but one, because its complete nature of relationship to itself will only stay that, even though while a little bit more of itself as the only semi-nature that is also always positive onto itself, stays perfect value progression. And it does that here, or it forces it from here, Leith of Hadith, as identity of relationship to itself, an identity that is inseparable from all other things, boxings. Now, what was revealed to teach this is what my YouTube channel is about, algebraic consciousness. And I'm using simultaneously inherent active and progressive means, one way redeems. For example, CNN or WTNH, this is after they were already, recorded and confessed associated with sources that are criminally foreign influenced. CNN has sources with CCSU and with professions tied to them, training of media. See, media speaks through. Media is they ask questions to the presidents or they ask questions to people that are guided by, where and how Our nations don't have free speech. Our nations have to hide shared policing with a whole bunch of nations. Those are identities of the law. No, because these are the laws of before and while being the value of the laws of physics. While before and while being the value of the laws of metaphysics. Before and while being the value of the laws of identity. Each complete identity is simultaneously an unceasing semi-nature relationship to this complete nature of relationship to itself. And while a little bit more of its temporary / lasting value as nature and nature as value simultaneously, distinctly and non-distinctly, while it is coming into and as lasting, temporary / lasting space nature's value. So Earth simultaneously distinct and non-distinct, temporary / lasting space nature value is positive or negative onto it. It is still yet positive onto it, distinctly and non-distinctly from the rest of space nature, because the rest of Earth has no criminal foreign influences. These were engineered consciously to make them methodically to make them maintain them self-value by every modern nation, by every modern campus, quality of it, regardless of what they call it, the name, a school, whatever, by each database relationship. The identity of the ground, too, since before modern nations, was already tactically, criminally denatured. Methodically to maintain that rolls with what maintains self-value, value nature systems that are going to be caused to and as negative value nature progressions, acts of natures, like wrongdoers, wrongdoing, criminal insidiousness nature. These are organized crime terms. This is about the organized crime that religions are about. Now, this is not being demonstrated because they're making not by accident. They're pretending that sciences are separate. The sciences share an identity, this identity. That's why the predicate is that word, predicate, in English, and as a value. And that's why the predicate act is also that value in law with that word predicate. Predicate act is a crime associated with I don't want to say influenced by a criminal enterprise, because that influenced by the natures with and as the value of a criminal enterprise. I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a policeman, I'm not a criminal. Since before our nation's founding and straight through it, recorded and demonstrated, free speech has not been let. We can't defend themselves and afford free speech with simultaneously inherent active and progressive means inherent to it. What they've been doing is this is a database crime. So when you, in other words, when you communicate with people that don't know what you're talking about online crimes, see, we have interbranch online crimes with courts, with police forms, various natures of police forms, and political families, and all associated with them. Now, what happens when you have that and you have to report specific crime acts? And see that, in other words, they're also doing that with other natures of crime that have nothing to do with online. And they're doing it in databases. And then they're slandering me. They're slandering other people. So what I was talking about, WTNH or CNN reported this story on how there are, and I can't find the link because they have too many stories. They just keep moving. That's how they're maintained victim predators. And they're also because they're using information that is criminally influenced, and they're speaking through others. No, because that's part of what this does. and it builds. Look up the term MISPRISION, which there are must be debatable takes on that, misprision. But this is, in other words, where people may have different opinions and not even like each other, but they're valuing each other's styles of lying because they're sharing premise treatments, fact treatment, nature, quality, styles of lying to themselves and to others, sequence shifts, devaluing natures, evidence, evidence reception natures that are inferior to our correlation nature, simultaneously inherent, active, and progressive means. So now they have all kinds of equipment and databases to pretend others. See, those databases, they can't defend that. What's great about that, and what can see right through that. So, in other words, they were talking about how kids, if you give them pre kindergarten, it could last. They have studies. They reported that it could last well into their lives. In other words, advantages to that. But they're leaving out much. Like in other words, they're also using. This is also a method that uses other people's names. In other words, you know how many people names are tied to interbranch family members? Just their colleagues, and then all private tied to them. And then they hear about someone from their colleagues or something like that. People interact with their businesses, private and other. Even in other words, interbranch too. We have police forms, databases, criminally stacked. They're stacking falsified police reports, a whole bunch of them, but pretending they're making mistakes. In other words, this is because they're just chop shop, like real knaves. In other words, and then when someone needs to go back and look on things, that there's chaos, and they can adapt too because they mix various natures of departments intercity with the same arrest. You know, this happened with me, starting with a falsified police reports from East Hartford on the campus of Central Connecticut State University, CCSU, involved with WTNH and with CCSU. I mean, with CNN, misinformation databases that are used criminally. And in other words, they're using the sensibilities of people that are victims that are reliant upon that and integrity that gleaned from other. In other words, they're forsaking a perfect world, and they're told to per the FBI's criminal involvements with this, and other police forms recorded and confessed and demonstrated criminally involved with this, wire crime methods, mail crime methods. So now I have to use names of people that I never had conversations with that pretended other in databases. Before they did that, what facilitated that was other people I barely had conversations with who pretended other into databases, forging names, switching names. Now, these are people associated with, in other words, individually, the branches are sick, criminally foreign influenced, and delusions raw. And grouped they are, and together. And they lie about that individually, grouped and together. They use methods like forging and switching names into branch, distinctly and non-distinctly, but at the same time. And in sequence, because it goes first from the police and then to the courts. But then the courts, when you're in the courts, they're doing it too. They're stacking. These are identity theft rackets roles. See, they put color in with the law and had a whole bunch of nations valuing it here. Valuing it because it kept a whole bunch of liars calling other people liars, and they were valuing how everyone was only let be a liar. In other words, no matter how smart you are, what you say, you're entertaining even Jim Crow laws. You can't defend yourself, and those fact treatment nature quality, that fact treatment nature quality, that sequence nature treatment quality, the premises treatment nature quality, they can't defend itself, and people, and from people with simultaneously inherent active and progressive means. One way redeems. This is also leaving out an organized crime method against each age, especially with psychology, sociology. All of the sciences are forced reliant upon types of experts, and that is they're all recorded and confessed and demonstrated incapable of defending themselves with and has the value of that, and what is being exploited, which is the identity the scientists share simultaneously, inherently, actively, and progressively and unceasingly as value progression perfect, and as its identity of relationship to itself, as we are a gaining nature of volume, as a quality of diffusion in relationship to this identity of value that algebraic consciousness works as, and in relationship with it, as radical correlation, as radical correlations means, simultaneously, as radical correlations simultaneously inherent active and progressive means, one way redeems. Now, this is extreme algebraic consciousness. And this is pantheism, and this is a form of religion, because prayer is a form of correlation nature, using that and how we are simultaneously an inherent nature of volume, distinctly and non-distinctly, simultaneously an active nature of volume, simultaneously distinctly and non-distinctly, and simultaneously a progressive nature of volume that is further positive or negative, again, in relationship to this identity that the sciences work to in relationship to or not. And this is using Allah's name. See, but we're not allowed to be about radical correlation. And the fake sides there and here are being maintained. ISIS, the Quran warns against Muslims that say there are Muslims always, but who are not. It's not about if you eat pork, you make a mistake, or you got caught me eating pork. In other words, even the Quran also tells Muslims right up front to value non-believers who aren't lying in other words, in relationship to, I'm paraphrasing but directly from the Quran, to value unbelievers more than states and areas roles within as criminal and seditious natures, as wrongdoers. In other words, natures of positive, of truth tellers that are say they're true always, but they're not. In other words, say they're about facts offensively, but they're maintaining quality of fact treatment nature. That once you defend that and how they defend it and maintain it, defend it, it's value, because we're in a value nature system tactically ulterior from this one. So they want jobs value, but the jobs only let realized, not by accident, are while a whole bunch of people don't have jobs that are worthy of their worth, their value. At the same time, in other words, while people are forsaken too. And then they want, they have jobs without the distinction. I mean, you could have a job, $10 an hour, $20 an hour. Nonsense, but you really can't afford what you need, especially with the prices of things like lawyers and things like that, in relationship to how they stack natures of crime too. We have types of law, and all natures of crime are stacked against each person, each individual, group, dash, sex, and species, nature, or volume. Everything is in demonstration of this Trinity's value/value nature relationship to itself, which is values natures relationship to itself. See, I'm discerning value nature distinctly from value, simultaneously distinctly and non-distinctly from values nature. Because value nature is inside of values nature. So our identity is values nature as each identity inside our body as a complete identity. It is value nature inside of values nature as a complete identity, each part of your body, each organ, each system. It is simultaneously an unceasing semi-nature relationship to our complete identity, your complete identity of value. And each complete identity of value is simultaneously an unceasing semi-nature relationship to this perfect value progression as the only completely complete. Always, in other words, it will only stay complete. Identity of value progression. An identity of relationship to itself, which is really positive's course. This is the identity that the complete identity of temporary positive has as a simultaneously unceasing semi-nature relationship to Allah, which is also about how about the this is about how and why there are other names of gods that are valued by this algebraic consciousness. For example, using Allah's name. This is not denying the Quran. This is distinct. This is not denying. In other words, the Quran and the Old Testament, the first parts of them, the sequence nature of them was never let free speech offensively with people, for example, saying or agree to disagree. Every time they say agree to disagree, they're leaving out all the simultaneously inherent active and progressive means to demonstrate not just one, but every one or two, fake sides, fake middles, fake being lying, and juxtaposed physical delusions. In other words, with the middle and the sides of correlation nature, because there's a trinity. And this is scientifically discernible. This is what the ancient snow people are about with algebraic consciousness. YouTube.com/user/Romulus Paul. It heals you all. And then so they influence the media is recorded, confessed, and demonstrated, influenced by their roles with interbranch sources of theirs to crime roles they're indifferent to, as long as it's through them. And those people are recorded, confessed, and demonstrated victim predators associated with other nations, victim predators there too, because everyone's blaming the real causes of negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures, blamed on other things, selves, and on others, and having been blamed on others and valued that way. And that's everything, because value is what is expanding here, as it were, as a increasing nature of volume as value, as nature as value, simultaneously, distinctly and non-distinctly as value as nature. And this is how we could discern this, because it's also that way onto each nature of volume we are. And this is discernible. See, but we have opinions that are preventing the quality of fact treatment nature offensively, and then they're preventing counters. So when the fake news stole me to a fake conversation with them, they prevented my side from having voice. And they attached me to fake sequence nature, fake relationships to other people that I don't know at all, that are pretending other, and ones I only know of because in the past they made confessions, demonstrated they were influenced to seek me out to make the demonstrators, and to others. They're keeping Miss Prisian influenced branches at once, and they're keeping counters to it where each side punishes each other, whole bunch of sides at once. You know, when they have sanctions in relationship to internation differences, it's a huge amounts of money. Sanctions are in relationship to organized crime treatments, and or in relationship to, you know, criminal insidiousness nature treatments. In other words, whereas now modern nations are legalized criminal insidiousness natures, but only because that was only ever known and it was told to be that was legal, which is not legal. They're lying about the value of the law. They're lying about the law's nature's nature and its value. They're making education so they have to keep moving forward, and they're wasting a whole bunch of time with nonsense. When people miss little and critical things, they're making sure people miss little critical things too. I know there's people I never met that are men and women now who had family members who are associated with crimes and databases with all the people with the schools I went to. There's like a Leahy family. There's a father of one now. He's got his son. I believe he got other, you know, his son's wife works there. Other family members of theirs. I never had conversations with them. They pretended other. Now these are also people with drug clicks with the courts. Now these are also courts who will put little kids in jail for what their own kids have, like marijuana and better quality of it. In fact, they use that. That is used because they maintain them originally and still the identities of each branch as standing lie progression cover up natures, as standing lie progressions engineered, valued. So what happens? In other words, all lie progression cover up nature's needs and styles, misprision, fake difference. So they say, oh, I don't even like that person. Why would I lie with them? No, they're facilitated to. People that don't even know people are facilitated to quality effect, treatment nature, defenses, value that you can't value and also and you can't defend it also at the same time. Free speech, in other words. So, and then I did videos where I recorded. You can't call on the phone; they won't call you back. They hide and plot. Get hot. They have fake sources. Their sources are influenced because, and they're getting away because they've interbranch clicks. When you go into courts, they tell you don't speak to them. Have a lawyer speak for you. You'll get hurt, and they're true. And but they're dishonest about that too because you'll get hurt because they're dishonest. They don't care about right to me. The reason we're supposed to have the right to be remain innocent until proven guilty is not for them. Is not to say that prosecutors are supposed to try to prove people guilty when they don't know for certain they are. In other words, they're recorded consciously proving people are guilty when they know they're not. When they know that there are all kinds of crime acts, roles, and natures associated with that, with the various natures of courts at once. All victim predators trained to rely upon each other's communications, trained to rely on each other's databases, each other's summary judgments, convictions, left records, insidiously wrong, consciously, methodically, sequence shifting, identity theft, attaching me and attaching kids to fake relationships to others through time and databases. So when you go, so when they're making problems because when they can torture you. This is about torture too. Because when you go to court when you're innocent, just being proven innocent is not good enough. In other words, especially if they keep stacking it through time. They were recorded clear as day CCSU involved with rape threats, identity theft crime acts, not just against me, but against girls of each age on and off campuses, because that's what they're involved with on and off campuses, police forms, training of that, criminal justice rackets. Then we have tactically pseudo-educated people, victim predators, pretending that they're trained. That's not correlation nature. That's not worthy as the law has value, has nature. Not by accident. So we have private, like the fake news, in collusion with the interbranch crime acts of all kinds of natures. These are with states' attorneys valuing those positions. This is how our election, these are involved with election crime acts, roles, and natures of it. No matter who wins, they're stayed leveraged against them. Not one president had free speech. They have a quality of fact treatment nature forced. Also sequence nature, where if you try to start telling the truth, everyone's already invested, mass, grouped, whole bunch of nations, hundreds of nations together. Mass sequence nature styles already value with differences and with solving things, valuing that. In other words, and you can't. In other words, we have a whole bunch of headaches at once, and then nations get tortured. Each individual, each group, like areas or states or nations, and altogether our species and our leaders. In other words, too distinctly and non-distinctly, not one person has free speech, and that is forced value by and as a whole bunch of criminal insidiousness natures as positive, as sensibility natures of positive treatments, and to care for that, they can't care for that at the same time. So they want their job value, which the victims, they need to have means to feed themselves. We're in a tactically denatured relationship to nature, already long having had only realized natures of jobs reliant upon tactically valued, tactically denatured relationship to nature, blamed on other things, others themselves, and that value. So in other words, they're valuing, wanting and needing to spend billions of dollars for all kinds of trials, all kinds of experts associated with that, in relationship to people who only would a fraction of that. You could end the problem, give each of those people a place to live better than we have here or there, and as what would building it would increase wherever or is around it. If we admit that we have a tactically denatured relationship to nature, this was forced since before our founders were born here. They were already building huge. They already built a huge building when George Washington, James Madison, before they were little kids, before they were even born, they already had the means to build huge buildings. They were already starting, they already had plans with our foundation when they, at the same time when they had everyone else, living like paupers or whatever, living like removed from what humanity's means were in ancient times. Even though, the histories of that too are recorded criminally foreign influenced. They can't defend themselves even yet in proper evidence reception of the past. In other words, using simultaneously inherent active and progressive means that correlation nature has, the Trinity has. And that's why Jesus Christ says he is the Alpha and he is the Omega. Because he's talking about how our nature has a polarity nature in relationship to this. That is a polarity nature with a simultaneous value of our complete identity as a semi-nature. With it, 3 semi-natures. Each complete identity of value simultaneously and unceasing semi-nature in relationship to the identity that is shared by all things. Bach sings. This lifts and gifts right here, or leaves, Leith of Hadith, as the value system, as the values natures system. We also have these other tactical territories. In other words, we have the path up. We're in a negative identity of negative value. We're in an identity of negative value nature progression. So they're talking about jobs, sensibilities of positive that aren't positive. They're forcing what means we have, ignore that and how they want to spend all that money just to keep just to keep the problem going. Valued for their jobs reliant upon that, not by accident. As victims, but as victim predators. You can't tell our American history and not teach about not teach about this without telling it wrong. More important than the knowledge of all the different things and this, that, is right up front. Marbury versus Madison's value. And you can't value that if you don't understand the organized crime method upon him, that he didn't have free speech and how. So when they pretend they're about truth, in other words, it was already declassified. It was already reported that there's a Russian spy there. This is not to knock Russians. This is against Russians too. Whole bunch of group nations forced to share policing, forced shared judicial, forced shared political sick. They can't defend themselves and themselves and afford to be heard. Correlation nature simultaneously inherent active and progressive means. One way redeems. So I don't know exactly who it is, but it recorded interbranch cliques, military, criminally foreign influence cliques, involved with fake YouTube pages pretending to be me through time. In conjunction with the fake news, with the crime acts in the court cases, stealing our identities with their interbranch sources. Then they make overall allegations. They pretend we're making allegations because they know if they have a conversation about reality, they stole my identity to a fake conversation with them. They fake both sides of stories. They attach my family members to fake relationships to others, me to fake relationships to others, fake sequence natures of relationships to others. They attach my family to fake communications that they already communicated other formally in legal context, because the criminals in my town are associated with defendant, former director of the FBI. Their roles with all other FBI and their family members, drug clicks, things like that. Same people putting people away for that. In other words, they're using they're fake integrity natures maintain value. They're about who's good or bad, sick in their minds. See, forgiveness is for this to see how they're sick in their minds. Otherwise, they won't let you have the quality of fact treatment nature. They'll just attach you to fake lies. They'll pretend things are recorded against you, stacking it. Pretending that experts have integrity they don't have. They know that. That's private juxtaposed with interbranch. That's juxtaposed with shared policing of that. Policing of the investments of that. Policing of the value streams of that. And that's where and as and how. In other words, that's Leith of Hadith. That's a value stream. That's or what causes evolution. This is why we're supposed to discern. That's why we're forced reliant upon value systems. That's why it's critical that we understand how every modern nation's in a value system that as long as you defend it, there are still going to be negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures. More and more, they're going to value means to deny that by what was set up to have other natures of value nature systems. In other words, they try to counter the impositions in relationship to we don't want to go into a depression. We don't want to go into a recession, just like other nations. So they keep doing what they call, I guess, putting band-aids on the problem. And the problem is not going to go away. Earth's value goes away. Leaf of Hadith. Then know that and how the rest of nature has no criminal foreign influences. Humanity does. One little species too long. You look at the ocean. Things floating in it. God knows. I believe I believe it was reported on CNN that or Fox News or MSNBC, one of those, that there are long-lived isotopic particles inside the ocean. I don't know what that is, but it doesn't sound good. And there are all kinds of, the plastic breaking down. Everything just float up, out of sight, out of mind. Literally. This is mind's values course. I'll drop the ball. I'll drop the force. Box sings. I tell you things. Tells us things. I speak of source alone. The force is no thing without this source. Come home. Campus Marcius calls you home to train. Who'll gain to gain. Now, say you kid around like that. Meanwhile, they'll kid around and say something stupid and say, pretend that. But I'm over here kidding around, and I'm real as day and as night together, because they're an increasing nature of volume, which day and night are in demonstration of, which the different distinct identities of our body sharing one is in demonstration of. Playing games, who trains. So there are further recorded insidious from off the ground of education maintained before anyone got to the campuses, before anyone was born. The sabotage of the campuses, ill natures of database relationships. And that was with what made value nature systems. And when they say that they used to barter and trade and things like that, that was while the organized crime method from semi-ancient times knew that criminally re-engineered internation sciences, value of the campus Marcius, the species revealed this together. The real etymology of English is about how there are a whole bunch of sounds manifest as one identity of value as nature, and as nature as value simultaneously, distinctly and non-distinctly. And English is made up of only 26 sounds. But this is algebraic consciousness with using value G, God, which is an English word. Distinct and non-distinct from the identity of all things at once. To discern this, we're using the Trinity natures. Nature of relation, identity of relationship to itself, which is using its identity, which is an identity that only gains volume, positive or negative onto itself. That's what we know. This is what causes positive value nature progressions here in evolution's fruits and gifts, or Leaf of Hadith. Earth's simultaneously distinct and non-distinct value positive, also positive unto itself, forced away from here. As an identity of relationship to itself that will only stay positive. So then we become negative value nature progression to positive value nature progression somewhere else. That's most probably where the concepts of heaven and hell came from. You see, now I'm not even using research like that. Besides, like commonly known research about about the name Letha Vadiz, they'll tell you stream of consciousness or river of obscurity. But see, they have had this obfuscated and defended as other. This with Letha Vadiz is really about is this. In other words, I'm using simultaneously correlation nature, simultaneously inherent active and progressive means. And this is what knows how to cause evolution, which is an identity of relationship to which is our nature of relationship to itself. That is going to do that using the ground. It's not. You can't see. We have the ground tactically denatured. People stacked. That was forced by an organized crime method. Recorded, valued by our legal natures, interbranch, federal, as victim predators. Delusions wrought and criminally foreign influenced originally and still. As pseudo-positive natures that are raised to care for their colleagues because their colleagues are all victims with them, needing to hide lies and needing to value how criminal insidiousness nature was legalized, needing to exploit that because it wasn't legalized legally, it was criminally legalized. We're in a fact treatment nature trap where fact treatment nature is our value, positive or negative. 3 ways at once, though. So they're making fights, sequence shifts, and then they're saying, like, oh, those are crazy allegations. Well, in other words, it's recorded true. They never had a conversation with me. They stole my identity, WFSB. They stole my identity through time. This Leahy family, their whole family, like they have women that work there, people with the same name, 2 Brendan Leahys, attached me to fake conversations. Also recorded and confessed is a Brian Silver associated with them with drug clicks with New Britain Superior Court that I also never had a conversation with. These people have been pretending other through time. These are people that set up illusions to make it like they would try to film to make it look other, but there was no exception of other. In other words, and these are people with off campuses maintained from on off campuses, from off campuses maintained on off campuses collusion with the sabotage of the value of, in other words, with a crime method that effectively keeps each individual, group dash sex, and altogether keeps them valuing misprision, negative qualities of fact treatment nature, pseudo positive, because of the way it hurts each person, because of the way it's hurting them while it's helping them. This is fake care, simultaneously as evil, fake justice, insidious. See, criminal insidiousness nature. So, and then they pretend that you have to sue to have free speech. That's not what the Constitution says. See, then if you try to call up someone, now we're talking about things they don't know about. So they're reliant upon databases that are being used to maintain time. The time too is being used all ways to have it valued too fast or to have it valued too slow. Like when people go into courts with the stream of courts each day. Like with their treatments of you know, overall, like trying to fund, they want to fund what they want all that money for, but they want to keep our value nature system, a whole bunch of group nations. That's what they're doing. That's what their motivations were as roles, as the states and areas of the other nations, the states of the areas of other nations. Each area of each nation can't help but being a state of value as nature and nature as value. And that is value denatured. So they have the same pathology of recorded tactically denatured, relationship to nature infrastructure, means to afford it, pathology of that valued, which was involved with the identity thefts of our founders, which was involved with the torture of our founders, which is involved with the free speech of our founders that was forced. They didn't have free speech. They had to lie, the same way the president's being forced to lie right now. But either that or to pretend that he's not a liar with the fake news that is recorded liars, because they're going by precedents and standards, not going by the Constitution. They're not going by correlation, nature, simultaneously inherent, active, and progressive means. They're not allowing free speech. To defend themselves, they're reliant upon valuing identity theft rackets roles called Through Your Souls. They have forging name and switching names also involved with this, because then that's what they're doing because they are recorded using time too slow and too fast, consciously, willfully, criminally, and with physical delusions. It's a branch, and that's with a torture role. They're preventing each of the surface values of the Constitution. Sub rows, they're valuing it. Language that facilitated value so they could pretend things real fast, too slow, while they're stacking things in. They make confessions, and they're using the time. Then you're going to go away, and they're going to write things on paper that aren't real. They're going to use that time to pretend you said things you never said in courts, to police, using their sources, including the interbranch families, including the family members of the courts and of the police. This is each person, group dash sex, and the entire species at once. The nature of volume is maintained, valued as what causes negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures, as the value of formal positions with relationships to all fact treatments with areas, states. In other words, and you can't defend themselves. In other words, you think that the people stacked in New York City don't want jobs? Not I don't mean go out work at McDonald's. Not to knock in McDonald's. We don't have time. We need fast things, vaccines. So it's not to punish who's trying to help us. I was saying, if you try to have a conversation with anyone, they're not going to allow protraction because they're valuing that. So in other words, everyone values, forget it's the perfect world sacrifice. The FBI, our police forms, our federal, other nations' equivalents are probably doing the same thing. But what they do is they have perfect world narratives, criminal uses of state police, criminal uses of local police. Even CIA is recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved criminally with Hartford Hospital, with the Leahy family, with New Britain Superior Court's federal crimes. Whole bunch of natures of them. Sequence shifts. Their crime acts rolls with a whole bunch of media fakes. Briefing of the media. And their name rackets, because they're making and keeping it too hard for people to talk, because people don't want to bring up other people's names. And if you do, then you sound like you're a rat or something. And these are the rats they built like that originally still. That's a little rat mob when they want to pretend they're about freedom when we never had freedom, and they're still pretending other. So what do they have to do with regarding the negative value nature progressions? Acts in nature in areas where there are a lot of shootings. They're valuing that blamed on other things other than themselves. They're valuing evidence, perception, study, research, and stuff like that, wrought with delusions and criminal foreign influences. I'll tell you right now what's causing the negative value nature progressions, acts in nature, shootings, criminal and insidious natures in Hartford, Connecticut through time. I just remind CCSU rolls with it per them from off campuses and then on off campuses in layers because this was the first from off the ground of education. Then, all database relationships. I learned at CCSU that there were database relationships that were internation monitored. And if anyone was found out to be speaking about building infrastructure outside of the pathology of homes, the way they had them designed, they would hurt them and their whole family real bad, scary. They had all kinds of crazy laws against every single person's free speech. No one could teach someone with darker skin how to read, or everyone was a slave, and they wanted it worse because they wanted all roles, and they wanted all roles valuing it blamed on other things others themselves. More and more as they became what they call success. That's only through people who are say, oh, forget that. Let's just value this time as criminal and serious nature, a positive. As the people, the only ones let voice. Each nature of industry. So there are there are people like if you want to go into if I wanted to do a movie about this, I would value a director, obviously. You're the masters of it. See, but now they can't do this movie and defend what they've been defending. Because this is about each science is standing as a recorded criminal insidious nature as a positive, as sensibilities that can't defend themselves and us at the same time. You hear they say, oh, if you really want to be, oh, I don't want to quote people because I have the links. I don't have to quote WFSB and Fox CT and CNN because they stole my CNN's recorded confessed involved with communications with people at CNN involved and with CCSU involved with this. And there's no way we shouldn't have to work so hard just to to respond to a whole bunch of natures of crime acts since I was a kid. This makes either family members, every group is hurt and or helped to hurt other and to maintain that value. So people say, oh, it's about their family and things like that. If you follow those kind of convictions, then they in other words, these are people that lie to your family members with undercover. We have all, but in other words, interbranch has influences over people when they're trying to have evidence perception, trying to they have wire crime roles, and then they lie about that with their identity thefts. They pretend that you try to tell about things before you did, because in case they get caught, they just stack all kinds of fake things in databases. Originally, still used criminally, with our with as the value of our identity of relationship to the ground. Which works because it's like this is the focus of like how our nature is the phenomenon. Its complete nature is the phenomenon of being separated, having been separated, while it is inseparable from itself. While we are in this active phase of quality of diffusion, as a gaining nature of volume, not just through our body, but through itself. It's coming more and more and more into and through itself as a gaining nature of volume, as forever nature, the value of our nature, the value of our physical bodies, the value of physics is nature. The value of nature is identity. The value of identity is a value of relationship, positive or negative, to itself, the perfect value progression. So this requires a quality of fact treatment nature. They use as God as an algebraic term, as an algebraic variable in relationship to the three natures of volume, in relationship to the identity of relationship they have to themselves, as will cause these positive or negative value nature progressions. So Allah's name is used in conjunction with it as the value of three natures of value G, God, that are gaining as volume, as a nature of volume. So Allah is a nature of volume that is gaining. And it's an identity of relationship. Now, see, this is not, the Quran is also demonstrating this is even if we agree about that, this is not like everyone should agree it's Allah. This is valuing non-believers and believers who are trying to be true always, not denying any exceptions. This is about exception nature. So even if we agree about that, it's requiring a nature of prayer that is distinctly and non-distinctly what the Quran is about, what the Old Testament about. But they're also built knowing that humanity was. They're also revealed knowing that everyone was going to blame. Knowing that everyone already came through a value of a nature of sciences that kept fact treatment nature styles only capable of being liars and or of devalue already quality of fact treatment nature sciences that had been before. In other words, the original ancients knew how to cause evolution because they were a species united before internation sciences were tactically criminally re-engineered. And then they made the states and area sciences not trusted consciously, willfully. And they knew that would degrade the value of states and area sciences because now you're not using our species nature as guide. And then you're having that value. So they knew that would cause the real causes of negative value nature progressions, acts in natures semi-valued blamed on other things other than themselves. And they knew that they could develop that. They could tactically develop the tactical fact treatment nature quality degradation self-value. That's what we have. So we have perfect world narratives with our directors of the defendant, and the director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, was a defendant in a part of a case/S in 2006 in Connecticut. That case came about after it was proven, that part of a case/S came about after it was proven that in the Trade Center attack context, there had been shown to the judges right before the attack post-dated documents. They had been post-dated from inside the court. In other words, the documents had been hand-delivered on time, time-stamped inside the Ninth Circuit, Manhattan. next to the Trade Center. And then shown to the judges right before the attack, post-dated documents, so they ruled it was filed late. Panel of judges, 3 judges. It's worse than that, though. It was more recorded, confessed, and demonstrated, involved, facilitated through Connecticut, interbranch and all tied to them. Private families maintained that were maintained as the ones further involved criminally with whoever affected that from inside the court. From inside the court, no. There are proofs that it's not just a accident. So what they do, in other words, they stack too many natures of crimes against people sustained. And people need to forget about that to feel good about themselves, to be healthy, to be able to communicate with others' sensibilities. You have to care for other people. In other words, there are needs to forget the perfect world, but not the way they're doing it, and not by the people with the only ones with the top voice, as directors of our agencies, as the leaders of our branches, as the leaders of each of the sciences, no database relationships. And this is a method that maintains each individual nature of correlation nature, trying to come out of this. But while they're trying to come out of this, it's already, before you get to college, for example, there were already database stacking against everyone. Either you're already that nature of, that's the world, forget that, just worry about yourself. Worry about, getting value for yourself. Now that can't defend it. In other words, then they need to keep that valued privately, our legal natures, to hide behind as breaching screens, breaching tools. They need to pretend that they're really passionately about making other people understand that and how you can be valuable, but by not caring about anything but making money, and or mixing that with types of charities and types of positive, that are helping out, not countering, helping out. Like, for example, homeless shelters, because they need homelessness for a whole bunch of different juxtaposed reasons. They have it maintained value, even down to the need to pretend they're positive as judges, as police forms associated with the areas and the locations where homeless are stayed, maintain manifest values, only let realized. Because we have value nature system, not by accident, that never reached out to everyone. Not by accident that reached out to people fake and pretending the jobs numbers, for example, leaving out exception nature, like about how the nature of those jobs are not valued. They can't, they're not paying, they can't afford to pay people enough for the time and sacrifices of health and time and positions and positions that simultaneously, in other words, free speech. And then we have the judges involved with the various natures of people with the court, forging names, switching names. In other words, if you follow the rules the way you're supposed to, they hurt you. If you break the rules, they hurt you. In other words, before they did this too, they were already involved criminally with WFSB. These are also people timed criminality with an Iola family, with a Fienza family, with a Kerr family. These are all people that are crimes with facilitated with people in my area, and they need that. They want me. They, in other words, they get it. They do it in a way that if you talk about it, they need to keep it overall because in other words, I barely know them. You know, there are people in my area that I know. I don't even, I never had anything to do with them. Every little exception from like grammar school like that. They even sequence shift because they invested people in grammar school to need to cover up the lie and to value the lies of a Debbie Gold and of a former Mayor Gold and her brother and family members and past boyfriends. If that was what he was describing, I don't even remember the guy's name. But see, these are people involved also with a principal child offenders campus associated with more. These are people associated with interstate crimes through time with Justice Department. These are people that are jobs that rely on psychologists. Recorded sick in relationship to what exploits, time. Too fast, too slow. Where and as and how it counts. Using their own kids. They need to hide their actual natures. They need to pretend their integrity they never had. American history is about the organized crime method that prevented integrity through torture, that prevented integrity through tactical pseudo-education, which that's what that was. Pseudo-education. That's what it was always to each person when you can't teach someone to read. Or you're a slave. In other words, if you do, you're going to get hurt. So you're a slave. If you found out, witch trials, there were all kinds of laws that our history was about, really, that we have valued indirectly because insidious takes on it. Sequence nature takes. Sequence nature is valued because it's got the value of simultaneous nature that is gone, but it never goes away. This is about how we are forever natures in demonstration. We have to, it's in demonstration of it. There is too fast, too slow, and there is forever. There is soft, there is hard, there is zero gravity's value. So this is algebraic consciousness. Return. Campus Marcius calls you home. Please learn. So what we have to do is force a response to me. Because they're preventing, in other words, if you call up on the phone and try to report things, they'll lie about what's actually recorded. They'll lie about what was actually recorded before that. In other words, they're pretending that what they recorded before that was true and they know it wasn't. These are various natures of police at once criminally involved. State police, more FBI associated with defendant, former director of the FBI. He had a co-defendant who had a daughter in my grade, involved with a whole bunch of criminality with people that were put in my classes that I barely know. And you hang around with people a few times, they make that happen. So then they can pretend if you say you have to say that after, and then if you say that, then they say, look, they want to fight, like they want to dispute with you. Well, they just keep making up more things. They're in the background. When I'm talking here, they're in the background plotting, hiding and plotting. They come with guns, point guns at these are gun crimes with police forms, interbranch. These are gavel crimes. These are pen crimes. These are verbal federal crimes. with of natures of them, interbranch their family members through time. All natures of politicians in Connecticut, retired and standing, all levels, means nothing. You're not supposed to have then they pretend they're against dictators. Then they pretend you're a dictator if you say, give me my free speech. I don't have a conversation with you. I say it nicer than that. But then it gets to that point because they're still now there are needs to demonstrate what they're doing through the kids because they've been lying about me through their own kids because they pretended conversations with me. Interbranch with the kids with the schools criminally involved. Each age of them, and this is intercity with the same predators recorded. They are caught. Now they need to hide the hide and block. They can't. They need no response, and they need the fake news that won't let that stole me. The whole bunch of natures of crime acts are the fake news. Now the attorney general is going to hurt them. I don't want the attorney general to hurt them, but that's what I'm obligated to use the attorney general now, and I have the right to. I did all the processes. I tried to get help from the state police. They're criminally involved. Sequence shit. All kinds of natures of federal crimes with the Wethersfield police. Like Officer Poison. Now he's with the state police. Other state police criminally involved with them. Doctors involved crimes with child offenders, with the extended family members of a house in my area. Kid who came in 4th grade. Involved with the Joe DeMoro. Came in 5th grade. I don't know if it was in my class. I don't remember him. Mr. Pruzzi had me do a maze from him. We almost got in a fight, and I never saw him again. I don't know. That was in 5th grade. That's a Joe DeMoro Ray Club. And they have friends that they hung around with his cousins and stuff like that. I don't know. I don't know them. Every once in a while, very shortly, I know them. See, but they couldn't be honest about that. And the only time I know them was in relationship to confessions. And in relationships, what they do too. They're making everyone trying to figure out things, learn about things. Knowledge where knowledge is being obfuscated. Because knowledge of it's being obfuscated right through the experts. Not by accident in relationship to databases. In relationship to their evaluations of fact treatments per what their colleagues say. Not in relationship to actual fact treatments worthy. They're making overall allegations against people. Then you make overall allegation. You have the obligation to make. In other words, that's true always. That's an overall allegation that is also tied to the finite crime acts, the sequence shifts, the body of value discernment, and the nature is discerned as actually recorded. As see criminal insidiousness nature, see wrongdoers, see wrongdoing. Not law, not police form, not criminal, not military boxings. I tell those things, prepare your souls. So don't make us beg. Stop torturing. This forces people to enter a value nature system. In other words, if you want to go into a nature of industry, really as a truth teller, they won't they'll hurt you insidiously. They'll sustain what they have the right to do, to hide what they're obligated to do. They pretend is for other reasons. In other words, they're criminally pretending they're obligated to hide how they have evidence reception investigations, evidence reception influences each branch used criminally. In other words, they're influencing people. They're using timed relationships to databases too with the schools. They know this person is going to walk from this. The bell's going to go off. These people are going to be in these classes. They're going to arrive to the cafeteria early. These people are going to be developed to know each other. They'll know all other people in their grades. You know, they facilitate roles with originally still maintained misprision criminality, value. And then, you know, they're defending experts on psychology that are with delusions interbranch. They're sick natures. It's not personal. They're recorded pretending it's personal when someone says that. We're obligated to say that because they say that about us criminally. They say so. They use fake passion, fake emotions, fake care, and insidious evil justice. Passion's fake. Evil, fake. Offensively. And insidiously, little crime method tricks, roles. Because they're in collusion would maintain this off the ground of education, which is critical now. And then that's into everything, into branches, then on off campuses again in layers. Because they knew they could do that and then and maintain the whole bunch of nations at once, valuing here and there each person of the species volume, prevented simultaneously, inherently, actively, and progressively our nature's means. One way redeems. So we have evidence reception predators in relationship to databases, in relationship to their treatments of what is, you know, they have theories that are delusions wrought. They have research that is criminally foreign influenced. They have research that was and is still valuing the torture, the identity thefts of whole areas. Each area, in fact, sickly, distinctly, specifically to keep how non-distinctly from being discerned. And that's what I'm trying to show you here. How sickly, distinctly, and non-distinctly, how our nature's identity of relationship to itself, distinctly and non-distinctly, onto its three natures of volume, value as nature and nature as value simultaneously, how it is in demonstration of itself that way. How it is a demonstration of what's going to cause positive or negative value nature progressions. And this is not leaving out the value of the identity of the ground and of water note, exception nature. This is a course, boxings of force. Its value is this source alone. Come home. Kempis Marcius calls you back to train. So mandated law means when someone wants to report people are obligated to report things like child abuses. You're not supposed to pretend, oh, that's a theory. You're supposed to, and those are allegations. When it's recorded, they say, well, present the evidences. Presented evidences. People made confessions. They forged names, switch sequences into branch. They punish you. They attach you to more and more fake recorded things into branch. They have wire crime methods doing that because then they value that. Because they're trained to. They're influenced to from their roles with the directors, sick as hell. Other nations, same thing. That's why they value that in other nations. They value wars Because in relationship to the real causes of negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures over here and there, they're shared fake positive, criminal insidiousness natures are positive, that are only positive in relationship to wars. It's not positive. So then they pretend they know they're gonna that the people can discern actually recorded the evil of the branches. You know, and they pretend that's allegations. Look at New York City and understand Donald Trump has been trying to tell the truth. And when they do that, when Barack Obama tries to tell the truth, they don't let him tell the truth. I use their names out because they're not let be the value of chiefs. They're trying to be, but they're forced to entertain states and areas, political processes, evaluation of fact treatments, evaluation of their identity's value, vested, can't defend themselves and not hide life progressions offensively. We have offensive evidence reception predators. Each modern nation. It's so positive to admit it. You know, like for example, if every modern nation agreed to fix the ocean some way, you know, we could even monetize. They could, instead of floating boats around, you know, we could bring natures of reliefs, artistic, actual injunctive reliefs. We could afford a nature of infrastructure, of means to it, a means to afford roles and means to it that can be afforded no other way. And that without that, you can only cause more and more negative value nature progressions, action natures. Not by accident, they're offensively evidence reception predators pretending they're against environmental change. Because they're obfuscating what environmental change's course is, which is nature's identity of relationship to itself, which is positive or negative. This is nature's course. This is Trinity's course. Or drop the force. Boxing. It tells us things. The recorded criminal uses of each nature of industry, even boxing, from outside of it, as interbranch. Again, in relationship to their offensive evidence reception, influences over the standing identity of the ground relationship, then they want to feel good about themselves too. Oh, they go and help serve people food when they're sick. Or I mean, when they're homeless or whatever. They're using those spots originally still for the torture. They need to keep those spots where people are most desperate, prevented simultaneously inherent and simultaneously correlation nature's inherent active and progressive means. That's where they are sickly insidiousness natures with from off the ground of education and off campuses and layers in stream state, shared policing of spots, shared streams of people going to court each day not by accident. An entire species as victim predators. More and more. Our nature wants its nature of science is back. That is using how and why we are a species nature of volume. The ancients understood that we have different colors in demonstration of this. Physical value is only valued by nature. And nature is only valued by identity. And identity is only valued by the complete nature of relationship to itself that will only remain. It stays in lifts and gifts or goes. It's forced away, it leads of ideas. And that takes our means, that takes the environment's value, its gifts. And they're having other motivated, pretended other, because we have value nature systems other. So not by accident, a whole bunch of mass people are about, oh, how you have to have the right attitude, how you have to be about just focusing on that money, you go for it. Quality of fact, treatment nature, motivations, fake difference, fake sides, physical delusions, criminally foreign influenced value. We have criminally foreign influenced zoning laws. We have criminally foreign influenced relationships to everything. Criminally foreign influenced sciences since semi-ancient times just reminds. Each database holds lies. All rise! Yes, yes. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, and the rockets and blare, it gave proof through the air that our flag was still there. Oh, say, can you see us that burn yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the brave? Bible! Okay, I'd like to thank you all for coming out tonight. Give me a response for the WFSB's very many natures of crime acts roles in crime acts. And if they want them not to be that, then have them respond real fast, because these are time torture, these are all natures of crimes. And get me a response for all the people that attach me to fake conversations. They even did this. They watch how many things I've been doing, because this is straight from since before the 9/11 attack. People were making confessions. People I don't know were seeking me out to make confessions, demonstrations, and recorded crime rolls with interbranch police, with the judges, and with the various natures of courts. One-way reports. On-off CCSU involved criminally. On-off cases and with databases criminally. Interfamily members criminally. This is also a method that went how it played out and stayed to play out. Anyone could only discern it by needing to use other people's names. This is also the value of names, why we really capitalize it. This is an ancient language that has been they can't teach English properly since semi-ancient times was criminally re-engineered. That built the phenomenon of modern nations, all founded for shared sick. You couldn't defend that. And the quality of fact treatment nature that could tell the truth about ancient history, that it could afford correlation natures, simultaneously inherent, active, and progressive means regarding ancient history. I have to get a professional haircut. So, one way redeems. Call through your teams. Return, I call you home. Campus Marcius calls you here be known. Ancient gaming system. It's no game, it only feels like game because it gifts. One way alone it lifts. We're gonna show you means. One way redeems. So in other words, When you hear news reporters saying people are lying, they know they're forcing them to. In other words, news, they have we have a whole bunch of states and areas. First, I want to show you something. Ever see when you look at something close up, it looks like, wow, that's big. Then you look at it far away, it looks small. Especially something they have where they have it where it's just like all concrete and stacked. So there are proofs that we have to do things like we have to go by the identity of relationship to the ground as its identity of relationship to itself. In other words, if you're near a river, how much volume it's going to have and stuff like that. That water has to be good for evolution's uses. You know, if you need water for chemicals, things like that, make another stream for that, a reverse river. Could afford to do those things. Vaccines. How did they map out? How did they put the highways everywhere? You know, this is forced. They did. We could also, too, in other words, where we have all that movement, no energy is being gathered from it. No. There are all kinds of things that we could just in other words, agreeing to just start something is one thing, but agreeing to start as a plan that's trying to be perfect world plan, what's going to cause positive value nature progressions acts in nature as evolution, which is our complete nature's complete relationship to itself, which is to an identity of value that is greater than ourselves. So Allah's name is being used for science. The Trinity is being used for science of equality of fact, human nature since semi-ancient times now let be demonstrated. Not by accident, states and areas preservation, intercampuses, intersciences preservation of religions is with each of the sciences as the religions too. Sensibilities with each other. You can't defend that and what they're about at the same time. You can't have them. You can't defend the sensibilities of the conviction natures of the experts on the religions and allow the sequence nature valued in sequence of them, because that shows that and how they're valuing it out of sequence as negative value nature. If you really want to get down to it, that in other words, that's why the beginning of the Old Testament says all you have to do is understand this right here. It's about how the sciences share an identity. And this is simultaneously, inherently, actively, and progressively. And this is scientifically discernible. And then that's why also the beginning of the Old Testament is about wrongdoers. It's about unbelievers, but it's about why that's why it's telling them to value the unbelievers, but not value a certain type of unbeliever. They're talking about criminal insidiousness nature. They're talking about wrongdoers, wrongdoing in relationship to from off the ground of education, and then from off campuses maintained, valued, on off campuses roles, keeping each person, group dash sex, and all together her, and self-valuing that, not by accident, because that's what happens when you need to value correlation nature simultaneously inherent active and progressive means with no free speech. You value each individual, each group dash sex, and the species nature of volume simultaneously, formally devalued and justified that way. And those justifications are evidences. that also reveal other natures of evidence reception and convictions by them that can't defend themselves and their value as only realized, defended, and valued in relationship to jobs, in relationship to time. So no, being used too fast, too slow. Instead of when we do it right, everything that's slow is wanted slow. Everything that's fast is wanted fast. We're forever nature's course. Boxings of source alone. I'll drop the force. It is nothing without this. Come home. So this is Anthony Wall, aka Romulus, and we could heal the Republic by being Romulus together. There are proofs that there is a nature of fighting that is even positive, even to the people who are fighting. Like, for example, boxing, unless you get knocked out or something. But no, that's not a good example. But I'm saying boxing is ancient from the Campus Martius, by the way. For example, when they have Queensberry rules, which they say made boxing more sophisticated, however they say it. The reason it did that because, in other words, the Campus Martius, boxing, all the sciences of the Campus Martius, the sciences share an identity. So I forgot what it was again. In other words, boxing came from a quality of fact shape in nature sciences, and as a science that was from before internation sciences were criminally re-engineered. Each nation originally valued other humanity greatly, and because they understood, because they didn't have it obfuscated and valued having been obfuscated, only realized known that way. In other words, not just black people, not just weren't allowed to read, and white, and if you have whiter skin, you're a slave that's not allowed to teach people to read. It wasn't just that; it was way worse. It was tactical pseudo education to maintain that value, to maintain the real causes of negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures, like predicate acts, like, in other words, these shootings, even if the people aren't associated with criminal enterprises are associated with the education of these campuses, of the parents of the shooters, of the in other words, they agree to when they try to have quality conversation, and they're gonna start saying, well, it's not the. In other words, the kids are the victims of formal predators with education only realized. In a value nature system that you can't defend roles with that and reliance upon your training to forced relying upon other types of experts, and that's with all time and quality of fact, human nature, health. They can't defend themselves in that and counter what exploits that without attacking other natures of sciences and getting into things they don't have the means to investigate. As the only people with the top investigators, whatever they call it. They're lying about actually recorded reality, and they're putting fake recorded reality into databases. Two Mendes police attached me to fake conversations because they were involved with crimes when I was a kid, but I didn't have them in my class. I never had anything to do with them, so I didn't know how to There was a whole bunch of other people that didn't go to my school too associated with them. with database crimes, with stealing with property thefts, lying about that, lying about people. Then seeing that as adults, they had attached me to fake quote, and they pretended they put the name of a police equipment and pretended it recorded it. And that simultaneously was offensively means to pretend they had a conversation with me ever. I explained the exception from an 8th grade class real fast. Conversation about Mike Tyson with this Eric Mendez. The rest of that was all made up. And I explained about a phone call. I didn't even know that was him. That's wire crimes rules through time now. These are people that were facilitated also crimes with other people with identity thefts, like a subby Scalora and his family with a whole bunch of police forms, foreign and domestic, involved crimes in my area with the extended family members are the ones that were involved criminally. I didn't realize it with databases behind my back, and this is also they don't realize it. This facilitated everyone needing to pretend, that I know them, that I know friends of theirs, because they need to pretend that I hung around with them. Outside of the context, I was actually when there are exceptions, where and how there are exceptions. Exception nature is exploited this way. They have been tactically investing people through time, needing to value the identity thefts of others. This is how you talk about the value of Martin Luther King. You don't use him. You don't use the value of his identity, which is a forever nature, which is a simultaneous nature, which is valued to correlation nature, which is valued as sequence nature. To pretend, that as names. Then when someone tries to point that out, they're going to pretend prejudice. They're offensively keeping fake sides. The ancients understood. If you're making your difference on a color, your negative value nature, it's going to be demonstrated to you. That's why we have tactical ulterior from actual value nature progression system, perfect value nature systems. Fear God. Thought wrong. Fear the identity that is shared. Thought wrong. No, it's the only thing to fear. Otherwise, everything is to fear. Not the environment, nature's nature of relationship to itself. And that's inseparable from our identity of relationship to the ground. They're using the concept of the environment because it's something they share. As in other words, then what are they going to do? Blame it on, make laws to punish people, individuals for what is the cause of the pathology of all that formal. That's what's causing negative value nature progressions, acts, nature streams of bad things, boxing. Not they're pretending mental illnesses, exploiting exception nature. In other words, if you don't let people read, you're going to cause mental illnesses in them. And then if you pretend that mental illness is inherent to them and or is biological, it's even worse. Nature of organized crime. No one cared for the people. No one cared. No one was real justice simultaneously. I'll tell you, of course, the best. I have no ego. Ego is a term. There are proofs that ego was also, that's not whoever made up that word. It was not made up. There are proofs that it stands for energies, gods, omega. And we'll come to all the ways alpha and omega is the demonstration of this nature's nature, identity of relationship to itself. As 5 bonded semi-natures simultaneously as 3 bonded semi-nature. So I'll do a video on the heartbeat of Allah next.